5 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m., it's Friday, March 29th, 2019, Vietnam Appreciation Day. It is 33 degrees outside. Tommy Goff, your morning mayor in the house. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. And Tom and Shane are here, and Shane is in Vancouver, British Columbia, half man, half amazing, with his Nike hat on today, and he's ready to rock and roll. So
you bet I am. Nice weather. Spring is here. It's great.
It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood, is it not? So, well, we didn't
except for my allergies. Other than that, I'll go.
You're okay? You're all right?
I'll survive. I will survive.
All right. There's Benadryl, there's Sudafed, there's all kinds of things for that, you know? Just pump yourself up. Just don't fall asleep during the show. That's all.
Exactly. Never.
All right, good deal. Well, the snow missed us. It was snowing when I came in this morning, but it was one of those snows like you see in the Hallmark movies, you know, at the end of the show where the couple worked out their differences and they're kissing and the snow's falling. That's the snow. That's kind of snow it was, you know.
There you go. Yeah.
Just kind of
White Christmas.
Yeah, that little light dusting going on. So, but we've still got snow in the forecast today, but less than an inch predicted. They've cut that back considerably. 34 degrees will be the high, 17 the overnight low, less than an inch of snow predicted. And then on Saturday it's going to be 41 degrees on Saturday and sunny, so that should get rid of anything that falls today probably. And also 46 on Sunday, and mostly sunny there. And the rest of the week, nothing really to talk about. There's a little afternoon showers predicted on the 3rd, Wednesday. But other than that, it's pretty much dry all week. So temperatures are going to be in the 30s and low or mid 40s. We're going to get up to 50 next Saturday, according to this, but we'll see. But our snow should continue to melt and cause problems and flooding and everything else that's going on out there. So
yeah, well, 42 degrees here in Vancouver, 68 high, snow's gone.
All right.
Just looking for spring. Everything's blooming.
All right. Oh, all right. Well, hey, this day in history, 1790, John Tyler, the 10th President of the United States, was born in Charles City County, Virginia.
What a guy.
Yeah.
Tremendous. And his rival, this was one of the dirtiest presidential campaigns in history, They gave him, they had the rant was Tippecanoe and Tyler too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was it was amazing. Amazing guy.
Those were the days. Well, 1867, Baseball Hall of Famer Cy Young was born in Gilmore, Ohio. Pretty amazing guy, Shane, Cy Young. I figured he pitched 22 years in the majors, won 511 games.
And he pitched for 5 different teams.
5 different teams, but imagine 511 victories over 22 years. That would be 25. He would win 25 games every year to do that.
And back then, I don't think they played more than 50 games a year because it wasn't a big league then. Right?
Yeah, I don't know how often they played, but I do know that pitchers like him would pitch double headers. They'd come out, they'd pitch 9 innings, they'd come back out, and they'd pitch another 9 innings, and they were
career innings pitched 7,356.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a lot. 2,800 strikeouts, 2.63 earned run average. And surprisingly made it to the Hall of Fame on the second ballot. Come on,
I know.
What do you got to do to be on the first ballot? And
talk about talent. 850 games started and completed 749 of them.
I know.
He didn't complete 16 games in his entire career. Wow.
That's why I say you do 700 games over 22 years. That's a lot of games, man.
That's a lot of.
That's a lot of pitching. So I think a lot of people, our baseball players today, are so coddled, that they sit in the dugout with her arm in a jacket. Come on.
Yeah, spitting spits and chewing gum.
Yeah, I was going to say, how tough are you? Get out there and do something. Yeah. 1882, the Knights of Columbus was chartered in Connecticut.
And it's amazing because this is a Catholic fraternity service organization,
Yep.
Like the Lions Club and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, it was named after Christopher Columbus, but a lot of people thought that maybe it was created somewhere else, like in Rome, but it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a Catholic organization for philanthropy and providing help to the less trodden and just a remarkable group of people that have survived this long. And, to this day, around the world, 2 million members around the world. Imagine that. That's pretty remarkable.
That's pretty big, yeah. 1951, on this date, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were convicted of conspiracy to commit espionage for passing nuclear secrets to the Soviet Union. We had nuclear secrets in 1951. Well, we dropped 2 bombs in 1945,
yeah.
I guess. So I guess we had some nuclear secrets that Soviets could use. And, of course, they were both executed.
Yeah, I wonder which one of them said, let's grow a pumpkin patch. We can hide our film in the pumpkin patch.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Really?
I don't know.
That's where they found the film, in a pumpkin in their pumpkin patch.
Yeah. Well, 1962, Jack Parr hosted the NBC's Tonight Show for the final time, and I think he walked off the set. I think he just left.
Yeah,
I'm out of here.
Yeah, it was created by Steve Allen, Dwight Tamian, William H. Harbach, and Sylvester Pat Weaver.
Yeah.
And the hosts were Steve Allen, Jack Parr, Johnny Carson, Jay Leno, Conan O'Brien, and, of course, today, Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah. Wow. Quite a history of that show. But Carson obviously is the guy. But
well, Johnny Carson, he made America laugh, and everybody waited up before they went to bed.
I was going to say, yeah,
went to bed to watch him.
Yep, couldn't miss the Tonight Show, and the Today Show benefited because when people turned off Johnny Carson and turned on the TV the next morning, Today Show was on, so they benefited from that. So people said, I'll just stay here.
And that was the age of the water cooler conversation at work. That's where that came from, because everyone wanted to talk about Johnny from the night before.
Yep, that was it. Well, in 1971, Army Lieutenant William L. Cowley Jr. was convicted of murdering at least 22 Vietnamese civilians in the My Lai massacre. He spent 3 years under house arrest. I don't know, pretty light sentence, I would say, for murdering 22 people.
Yeah,
but,
we lived through that. That was a tough one, yeah.
Well, that was the Vietnam War protests and everything were at their height in the 67, 68, and this just fueled that fire that much further. And then, of course, later on, the final, when was it, on March 29, 1973, a couple years later, the last troops left on this date, which is why it's Vietnam Appreciation Day or Vietnam Day or whatever. But one of the people that really gave the Americans a bad name, which they didn't already need because there were horrible stories coming out of Vietnam, and some were fabricated and some were not. But
that's correct.
That's a whole deal. 1971, a jury in Los Angeles recommended the death penalty for Charles Manson and 3 female followers for the 1969 Tate LaBianca murders. The sentence were later commuted because, California did away with the death penalty, so they're all still languishing in prison, as far as I know. Well, Manson's not. He's ashes, and
yeah, he's gone to the great ether.
Yeah, one of the girls died too, didn't she? Krenwinkel or one of those.
Squeaky Furman got it. She was involved in that one. She was the one that shot it forward.
Yeah, she shot it forward. Yeah. 1992, Democrat. This must be a misprint, Shane.
Oh, okay.
It says Democratic presidential frontrunner. It should be Democrat presidential frontrunner Bill Clinton acknowledged experimenting with marijuana a time or two while attending Oxford University, adding, "Of course, I didn't inhale, and I didn't try it again." So
Yeah, I know. It's a great one-liner
yeah,
he came up with. Right?
Yeah, I tried marijuana, didn't inhale, didn't try it again. So all bets are off. So I'm still your squeaky clean president, right, Monica?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Very good.
All right, 1999, Wayne Gretzky of the New York Rangers scored the last of his National Hockey League record 894 goals in a home game against the New York Islanders. So quite a record for Wayne Gretzky,
Incredible. 200 points in a season, a feat he accomplished 4 times, and tallied over 100 points in 16 professional seasons. This was a remarkable hockey player to watch. It was incredible. We started hockey at about 6 years old.
Yeah. Well, 40, that's what you got to do,
He also played for 4 teams.
Yeah.
But he's an icon, of course, in Canada, and he should be.
Oh yeah.
He led the Edmonton Oilers to several Stanley Cup wins, and so he's St. Louis Blues, New York Rangers, and then of course he ended up with the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah, there you go. Well, 1999, the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed above 10,000 for the first time, so that was 20 years ago this year, of course.
Isn't that amazing?
And where else could you put your money that you would double it in 20 years?
That's right. Like, what a return.
Well,
Bam.
I don't know. There's that rule of 72, I guess. You gotta do that
87
one.
And
yeah.
2008.
Yeah. 2002, Israel declared Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat an enemy and sent tanks and armored personnel carriers to fully isolate him in his headquarters in the West Bank town of Ramallah.
Yeah, that was a tough one. This is this is after they booted them out of the West Bank into Jordan, and Arafat tried to overthrow the king of Jordan, as we talked about before, and the king of Jordan said, "Go back to the West Bank, thank you."
Yeah, we'll see you later. Don't call us, we'll call you.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Let's see. Hamas formally took over the Palestinian government in 2006 on this date, so they've been going downhill ever since. Fighting going on over there now between Hamas and Israel going on right now. Let's see. Birthdays today. What do we got here? We've got Pearl Bailey, great singer and entertainer. Born on this date in 1918, died at the age of 72 in 1990. And, I don't see anybody else that is of any... Well, John Tyler, we talked about earlier, 10th President of the United States, died at 71. So, and Cy Young, of course, born on this date in 1867, died in 1955. So... All right. Well, that should wrap it up for the news of the day, or the day in history, I guess I should say. And we got to take care of the farmers, ranchers, cab drivers, truck drivers, Lyft drivers, Uber drivers, I guess.
That's right.
All the pizza delivery guys, everybody brings you food or sandwiches or whatever. Thank a farmer.
That's right. Thank a farmer.
Thank a farmer or rancher. Thank a farmer or a rancher for whatever you got on your table, clothes on your back, and booze in your tummy. So,
yay.
All right. News and agriculture, Headwaters Livestock Report. We'll be back right after that. 25 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m., it's Friday, March 29th, 2019, Vietnam Appreciation Day, and it is 34 degrees outside. Shane Matobin, half man, half amazing, on the line in Vancouver, and Tom Eagleoff, your morning mayor, in the house. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox, and we'll have a couple of Vietnam vets in here from the Vietnam, our local Vietnam vets group at 7, and Greg Gianforte will join us live in studio at 7:30, and I will be on XL Country at 9 o'clock, during the 9 o'clock hour, to chat with the folks over there about Vietnam Day, and so... Aaron Flint's boring, go over there.
And another promise made and promise kept by our president, the Vietnam War Veterans Recognition Act, signed into law Tuesday, March 28, 2017. So that's pretty cool that, for sure, your president, he believes in the vets and he cares for the vets and he takes care of them as well. And thank you for your service. You're a wonderful man. Love the hat. Love the hat.
I got the hat on today. Well, I don't know. I was feeling comfortable when people if you want to be technically correct, the correct salutation to somebody who is a Vietnam vet is welcome home. We never got it. We never got a welcome home. So if you see somebody with a Vietnam hat, say welcome home. Not that, we don't appreciate, thank you for your service. But as I've said many times, I don't want to sound like sour grapes, but in many cases, we tend to think it's just politically correct, that you're being politically correct.
Well, in that case, to the righteous eagle man, welcome home.
Welcome home. Yeah. See, that way we know it's a real deal. If you say welcome home, then we know it's the real thing, and of course we acknowledge each other that way as well. As we will with the guys come in at 7:00, and that was it was a tough time in America during those times, Shane. The Vietnam era, all through the 60s and into the mid 70s. It was 73 before officially signed a truce, and now they're an ally of ours, I guess, somewhat trade partner and whatever. So. You never know, 50 years later, what's going to happen. So,
yeah, indeed. It's a remarkable part of American history, so including for the military issue, right?
Yeah. Well, it was the first politically correct war. We during World War II, or right after World War II, I guess, and, probably before the Korean War, too, I guess. I'm not sure exactly when the Geneva Convention was signed. Whether that was either after the Korean War or before, I don't know. You may want to look that up for me, Shane. But you couldn't carpet bomb countries like you could in World War II, and drop nuclear weapons on them and all of that. So we were the first military, I guess, us and probably Korea, that were we couldn't go all out because the Geneva Convention wouldn't let you. You couldn't just shoot someone because they look suspicious.
That's right.
You had to wait for them to shoot at you, and I don't know if that was
the original Geneva Convention was 1864. And then it was updated in 1849, as you said, after the Second World War.
Yeah.
So 196 countries have signed to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and, ISIS, it seemed like everybody we fought didn't pay much attention to it.
No.
Japan certainly didn't, and Germany certainly didn't. So, yeah. It was before their time, but anyway. Yeah. All right. Hey, that'll wrap it up for this half hour. We got some local stuff we got to talk about. Then coming up at 7:00, we'll have a couple of Vietnam vets in here with me, and Greg Gianforte will join us about 7:30 or so, and then Jennifer Bordy will be here at 8. So we got a full morning ahead, so don't go anywhere. A lot to talk about this morning, and Shane and I will be back. You're on the KMMS Morning Soapbox, where Montana talks. 24 minutes for the top of the hour. It is Friday, March 29th, 2019, Vietnam Appreciation Day. It is 34 degrees outside. Shane Matavin on the line from Vancouver, British Columbia. Tommy Galoff, your morning mayor in the house, and you're on the KMMS Morning Soapbox. And from our text line, 478-8298, in the spirit of Vietnam Appreciation Day, thanks for your service. Tom, welcome home. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you for the kind words. Always appreciated. And one thing I've got planned, Shane, I think I told you the other day, we got a couple of voicemails on our text line from people that I'm under arrest if I don't respond and whatever. So Monday, I'm going to contact Tim Fox, our Attorney General's office, and see if we can get him on the show on one of these mornings. and I want to call these people back and have Tim on the line and see if we can have a little fun with them. And but yeah, we got two one day and one the next, where they're threatening to throw me in jail or cut my Social Security or whatever. I got to call this number, otherwise I'm subject to arrest. Holy smokes! I got to get that call made. So we'll contact Tim's office on Monday, see if we can set something up. And
well, the important thing is what you pointed out to the listening audience is your government is going to contact them by mail. They'll never call anybody.
Yeah, they're not going to call you. Yeah, they are. Yeah, no, they are not going to call you at all. Let me play. This will be on the same line you're on, Shane. But let me play these two messages that we got from the hotline.
Okay.
And so listen up.
Your Social Security number is going to be suspended for committing some suspicious and fraudulent activities in the state of Texas. So before we move forward with the legal procedure, contact us as soon as possible on 303-857-5234. I repeat, it's 303-857-5234. Thank you.
Obviously a computer voice, but but that's where we are. That's what we're up against. So, and I think the other one was I don't know. I was subject to arrest for something, so I've got that one saved too. So maybe we'll play them all together. The two were the same except for the phone number, so I just played one of them rather than subjected to two of the same message, but two different phone numbers that you call. So.
Well, the camera loves you, so your mugshot would be fabulous.
It would be, wouldn't it? Yeah. I think I'd make a good mugshot. I think I'd take a pretty good one. Yeah.
Me, not so much. I'm too pale. You just need to be a whiteout.
Yeah. They couldn't use a flash on you. You disappear.
Oh, I disappear.
Yeah, that wouldn't work out at all. Well, guess what? Hey, the Gallatin High School is on time, on budget, and despite the weather, they are cranking that baby up, Shane. So the Bozeman High School there, they're going to be able to handle about 1,500 kids, I think, 72 teaching stations, classrooms, labs, and gym class spaces. So going to be quite a place, starting to take shape out there along Flanders Road and wherever. So,
well, I see it's a flat roof, so I hope they're going to heat it or warm it so the snow melts.
Well, I don't know if they're I don't know if they're planning for 27 inches or not, but I guess we'll find out. So. Also, good news, an attempt to expand the local sales tax was tabled by the Montana legislature. They have stalled that. The House Taxation Committee tabled a bill for a local option sales tax on Wednesday, 6 days before Republican Chris Pope, a Democrat of Bozeman, introduced it. And House Bill 740 would have allowed cities and consolidated city-county governments to seek voter approval for a sales tax up to 4%. On non-essential items. Voters would have had to reconsider the tax every 10 years. Pope proposed allocating up to 40% of the revenue to rebates for residential property taxpayers, up to 15% for tax relief to renters, and at least 40% for local infrastructure, and 5% to cover the cost of collecting the tax. So in that case, the legislature voted that down, and so that's not going to happen. I guess if you want a local option sales tax, you're going to have to take it up with the legislature on your own.
Yourself.
So, by yourself. So we'll see how that goes. And also another blow to Governor Bullock. His hopes for an expanding preschool have suffered what could be the fatal blow after legislators killed a bipartisan bill to offer free schooling for Montana's 4-year-olds. The House Education Committee voted 9-8 Wednesday to table House Bill 755, sponsored by Miles City Republican Representative Eric Moore. And Moore's bill would have spent $16.8 million to offer voluntary preschool classes in public schools. So that is pretty much done and over.
They're getting the job done, which is great. That's why, it's a citizen legislature. They meet every 2 years, and you don't have that horrid cost that a lot of states do with, a sitting House and Senate every day of the year.
Yeah. So there you go. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this. 15 minutes for the top of the hour. It is Friday, March 29, 2019, Vietnam Appreciation Day, 33 degrees outside. Coming up at 7 o'clock hour, some Vietnam vets will be joining me in studio. And then at 7:30, Greg Gianforte will be in the house, and we'll be chatting with him. And in the 9 o'clock hour, I'll be over at XL Country talking about Vietnam with Dave and Allie. So a lot going on this morning. Jennifer Bordy will be in at 8 o'clock. So we've got just a few minutes here to finish up the local stuff, Shane.
Yeah, you got a full house today.
We do have a full house of stuff we talked about today. So, the preschool, the sales tax, the high school's going along strong. And in other things, recreational pot dies in the legislature, Shane. So I don't know. I guess everybody's going to have to go to Canada to light up. So,
or Washington State or Colorado.
Yeah, or one of those. So anyway, bill that would have legalized recreational marijuana use in Montana met a quick death in the House Taxation Committee. House Bill 770 was tabled on a 12-6 vote, sponsored by Tom Winter, Democrat of Missoula. The 64-page bill would have made it legal to buy and sell marijuana and send tax revenue to counties to fund schools and offset property taxes. Winter said the tax revenue would have also gone to law enforcement, mental health resources. Cities and counties would have had the option to prohibit the sale of marijuana if they wanted to. So Winter said he aimed to address what went wrong in other states, particularly Colorado. The bill would have prevented high-potency products like tinctures and dabs from entering the market, and it would encourage most edibles to be wrapped in individual packages to prevent excessive consumption. It would have prevented any kind of cannabis-infused food that looked like candy from being produced to discourage kids from eating it as well. So, medical, or not medical, but recreational pot dead for the moment. So unless they get it on the ballot again somehow, we're pot free, I guess.
Yeah,
other than medical, I guess. So there you go.
That's right.
All right. Well, let's see. Park County, they're declaring an emergency due to flooding over there. The commissioners are slated to declare a state of emergency for the area after flooding closed 5 roads, damaged 14, and wiped out a temporary bridge east of Livingston. So the Park County Commissioner said the declaration does several things, including raising awareness of the issue and putting the country in a better position to receive federal money to cover the cost of road repairs. So hopefully they'll be able to get some cash from the president and work on that. Big Sky's also working on housing for teachers and seasonal employees. That's always been an issue of how do you live in an expensive place like Big Sky while you work at the resort or the ski hills or the summer recreation or whatever there is there. And so they are they're
the commune condo.
Yeah, right. Well, no, I don't have to tell you, it's a notoriously expensive and growing community. 2 new projects intend to bring some affordable housing to Big Sky. Maybe they could bring the affordable housing to Bozeman while they're at it. So anyway, the projects were announced this week, with one providing housing for teachers and the other for seasonal workers at Big Sky Resort. For the educator housing project, Habitat for Humanity, Gallatin Valley is partnering with the Big Sky School District to build 2 triplexes on school district property at around 1,000 square feet. Each unit will have 2 bedrooms and a garage, and they think that will be adequate, hopefully, and big enough to live comfortably in, but not full-size housing, obviously, but
No.
More trailer size housing, I guess.
But we can guarantee you that the garage will be turned into an apartment.
Sooner or later, yeah. That's I was going to say. That's how I'll rent the apartment out, yeah. I'll do that for sure. Well, Big Sky Resort announced they want to build housing for 75 seasonal workers by next ski season. Big Sky spokesperson said that construction is slated to begin this spring. Each dormitory-style room will house 2 people with some room for a variation, rather. She said the rental rates are heavily subsidized. It'll be about $12 per person per night, including utilities. So that's pretty affordable, I guess, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. It is. It's pretty cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. We're not taking a break because the commercials were so short. I put both of them together, so we're free till the top of the hour. So thanks for letting me know, though, that it's time to break, but we're not breaking. How do you like that?
Well, in that case, no more neck signals.
Right. Well, also a Bozeman woman accused of kicking her son numerous times in the stomach after the boy answered a math problem incorrectly has been charged with assault on a minor. Bail set at $5,000 for Latrice Dawn Tatsy, 32, who was arrested Wednesday and charged with a felony. She appeared via video in Gallatin County Justice Court before Rick West, and according to charging documents, the Bozeman Police Department received a report of an assault on a minor that happened at Montana State University.
That's
all right, yeah.
wrong in so many ways.
The report said Tatsy, an MSU graduate student, kicked her son in his stomach 10 times and caused bruising at her apartment at MSU's family and graduate apartments. So the boy told officers that his mom got mad at him when he answered a math problem incorrectly, and so she's a pretty tough teacher. I would say, wow. That's pretty good.
I think, she left her ruler at school, apparently.
Apparently she did, yeah.
Yeah.
From our text line, 478-8298, regarding MSU or Big Sky Housing, the Big Sky Barracks. That's what we need. We need a barracks there, Shane. What do you think?
That's good. I like that.
That would work, yeah. The Big Sky Barracks.
Let everybody sleep together in one room.
That's right. Yeah, we'll just put them in their bunk beds and do your best. So... Anyway, the husband said he was braiding his daughter's hair when the incident happened. He said he jumped over his daughter and pushed her away to stop the assault on the boy. So, I don't know. I wonder what the math problem was. E equals MC squared. Was it really hard? Or
Yeah, I just hope she could. I hope she could solve it.
Well, I would hope so. I don't know, man. That seems a little bit excessive, to do that.
And it's so dangerous with the child, the appendix and the spleen. Those are easily
yeah, you
ruptured.
got all those things in there. You don't have all the protection developed. All the body's not developed fully yet, and the bones aren't as hard as they will be, and all that stuff.
And the muscles,
muscles are not strengthened yet. So, yeah, I don't know what it takes to. Or why you would get that upset. If you get that upset over a math problem, what do you do when something really serious happens? Do you pull out the guns, or what do you do?
If you get that upset over your child, what do you do at school with other children?
Well,
Ooh.
that's the thing that we don't know about either. So, man, that's pretty. Well, in other news, federal agents and several law enforcement officer departments are conducting an investigation in West Yellowstone. Firehole Avenue between Geyser and Hayden Street is closed. A release from Gallatin County says there's no threat to the public, but further details on what emergencies are investigating cannot be released at this time. You tell me if this isn't dangerous, Shane. Responding agencies to this closed block. Responding agencies. Right. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and Explosives. The West Yellowstone Police Department, the Lewis and Clark County Bomb Squad, The,
my God.
The Bozeman Fire Regional Hazmat Team, the Hebgen Basin Fire District, the 83rd Civil Support Team, and Gallatin County Sheriff's Office and Gallatin County Emergency Management. So for this one block in Yellowstone, I understand fully why they're closed mouth on that deal when they got all those people there.
You guys have an armored bear truck for that?
Well, we do. We got the Bearcat, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got an armored vehicle for that. So I don't know. Maybe they're going to rent it down there. But you know, a lot of people are upset. We bought the Bearcat. You know, without.
I know we talked about that.
Yeah, without permission. Yeah, Kukulski, the former city manager, bought it without consulting the commission. And apparently it was on sale or something, or they gave it to us, or I don't know what. So anyway, we got this Bearcat. But I will tell you this, Shane, since we've had the Bearcat, not a single riot in Bozeman, not one, not a single riot since we got the Bearcat. So, hey, money well spent.
There you go, buddy. There you are.
So yeah, I'm not sure what's going on down in West Yellowstone. This was from ABC Montana yesterday, so we'll have to see what's going on there, whatever they found. So they've got the Bureau of Everybody there.
The Bureau of Everybody, yeah.
So anyway, well that takes care of that, I guess. And, did you happen to catch the president's speech last night?
Of course I did.
Yeah, he obviously listens to this show, because what phrase did he use, Shane, that you used? Delusion is what he said, baby. I heard him loud and clear. And at last, Shane has come up with a viral phrase that the President of the United States used.
How cool was that? God, thank you for saying that. I was shocked.
Well, when he said it, I almost jumped out of my chair, because I thought you were probably dancing around the room, you know, in your skimmies.
Yeah, I was dancing around going crazy gate, because that's got to be the next line, right? Crazy gate.
Well, I don't know, but pretty fiery speech. Got on a lot of people. Got a little profanity stuck in there. So, but other than that, he was all right. Yeah, typical Trump speech, you know.
Yeah. And you know, he has this remarkable rhetorical ability to reach the American people, because he talks the way they do.
Yeah. He's not sitting up there reading a speech. He's at his best when he's off that teleprompter and you know, just reading from notes or rock and rolling as he goes. But the amount of people that show up for these things, just amazing.
140,000 people tried to get a ticket to it.
I know. That's
16,000 inside, 25,000 outside. Oh, my goodness. Michigan loves their president.
Well, I don't know. He only won by less than a point, so I don't know if they love him that much.
15,000 votes, baby.
Yeah, well, 15,000 is 15,000, I guess. That's almost what AOC won by.
That's right.
So I guess we're okay there. But yeah, it was pretty much a typical speech. You know, a few inconsistencies, a few stretching the truth in here, there.
But the key thing is,
yes,
all these Democratic candidates that have declared, none of them have had a rally that big yet.
No.
No.
Yeah, even Bernie doesn't pull those kinds of crowds.
No, God. No.
But.
But Bernie's an old song. He's just out there raising money to live on, to pay for his 4 new houses.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know, it's pretty tough out there, but you know how that goes. So
yeah, that's right.
Amen to that. So, all right, we're finishing up here. As I mentioned earlier, we'll have some Vietnam vets in here at 7 o'clock, and 7:30. Greg Gianforte will join us in studio, and he'll also be over at XL Country, I think, a few minutes before he comes over here with us. So. If you want to hear that, and so we're gonna pay a few bills and do some other stuff here in just a couple seconds. So we're ready to rock and roll. Jennifer Bordy will join us at 8 o'clock. Again, we'll be talking Vietnam vets. Vietnam Vet Appreciation Day is today, March 29th, as it is every year, and we appreciate all of you out there appreciating our service, and we're happy to still be kicking and still here.
Indeed. I hope you'll inquire of the vets the medals they won, because I'm sure they did. And it's a great way to honor them as well as thanking them for the.
Yeah, but I didn't win any medals.
You didn't?
No.
No?
No, I didn't win any medals.
You mean the only medal you grabbed was a beer can?
That was it, man. That was the only medal. Well, that and the gun.
Not the gun.
Sorry, not a gun. It's a rifle. You know?
It was a rifle.
This is my rifle. There is only one like it, and this one is mine.
That's right. And M16, I assume.
M1.
M1.
I was there early. We didn't get the 16 till after I was gone. So we carried the heavy metal, man. We carried the big one.
Did.
All right. We'll be back. Hang on. KMMS Morning Soapbox will continue. 5 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m., it's Friday, March 29th, 2019, Vietnam Appreciation Day. It is 33 degrees outside. Shane Tobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Shane, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Welcome to the house of the mayor and the great, amazing, dynamic, distinguished Eagleman.
Yeah. Well, okay. I wonder who he's talking about. All right. Hey, it is a Vietnam Appreciation Day, and we've got a couple of Vietnam vets in here. 3 of us, I guess, all together here. Everybody's sitting pretty. We all look healthy.
Yeah.
we
got up.
We
made it here this morning. Yeah.
We dodged whatever there was, and here we are. George Morales from the Vietnam Veterans of America here, our local chapter, and John Tromsness is in the house. John, welcome to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And let's see. Tell us a little bit about you guys. George, you've been in the Vietnam vet deal, so...
It's been a while. Been here about 30 years, and actually from Southern Cal, as you know, here in Bozeman, we call it Bose Angeles now because everybody comes from Southern Cal. But I got to tell you, for me, it was veteran-wise, it was one of the best things that I've done because when I got back from Nam, like most of the guys, and I say most, but not everybody, but we just wanted to get on with our life, take the uniforms off, get on with our life, and not involved in any kind of veterans activities. But when I got up here, I was invited to a Vietnam veterans breakfast that they were having, and a little leery about it, because I thought I think things are going well. I don't need another distraction in my life. But anyway, it was one of the best things that happened to me because I saw the Vietnam veterans really, really having good goals, good ideas, as opposed to just getting together in a bar and drinking beer and talking about old combat stuff. And so it turned me on. So I got real involved to the point where I became the state president of the Vietnam veterans for a couple of years. And it was a wonderful time. But since then, I've backed off a little bit and really still involved with all the veterans, the VVFW, American Legion, the disabled veterans. So it's a good cause, and my main thing for me is to turn these young guys returning from Afghanistan and Iraq and all that, and letting them know the benefits, because us Vietnam vets, like if you were like me, just leave me alone. I want to get on with my life.
Right. Yeah.
But they need to be educated about the benefits that are out there for them, and that was my main goal for this, and it was a good goal.
Well, I think that was true of us. I know when I went in. I was in during the draft era, and they told us, only 1 in 20 had a high school diploma. At that time, so it was. So when these guys came out, they didn't have the education to, and that's why we see a lot of homeless vets and whatever, that they just, they couldn't assimilate back into life without help from somebody. They didn't have any skills or, other than firing it, firing a rifle. That's about it. That's it. Or pulling the thing on a
You come back looking for a job, and they ask you, well, what's your qualification? Well, I know how to shoot a machine gun. I know how to shoot a machine. But so that was.
I was going to say I drove a tank, worth about $5 million, but but I can't park cars. You got to tell me that. What about you, John? What's your story?
I grew up in Colorado, and I was in my second year at college back in '66, and I got my draft notice from Uncle Sam, and I'm from a military family. Both grandparents, my dad, my uncles, they were all World War II, Korea.
Yeah.
And so I did want to serve, but I wanted to finish college first because I wanted to fly. But I was one of the few guys that actually got drafted out of college. I made the mistake of going to a college in the Midwest that was very academic, but I was there to play football and wrestle, and my grade point average wasn't all that great.
All that up there, right?
So I was drafted in '66, and I joined the Marine Corps because they had the enlisted commissioning program, and the recruiter told me, well, if you enlist with an aviation guarantee, you might be able to go on to officer school and get into flying. So, I swallowed that hook from the recruiter.
Okay,
So I ended up on the Yellow Footprints in San Diego and spent my first 11 months as an enlisted guy. But I actually did qualify to go to OCS, so I ended up doing that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I was in Vietnam 69-70. I was the bombardier navigator on an A6 intruder flying out of Da Nang.
Well, that's lucky to get out of there.
Yeah. And, I came back from Vietnam thinking, I missed most of the war. I flew over it. I'm okay. I got shot at all the time, but I was never slogging through the rice paddies. So
there were some nasty jobs, certainly, that some of these folks did. You look at some of the YouTube videos, and boy, it wasn't a nice place to be. I'll tell you, hot as hell. 130 degrees every day, and it rained at 2:00. Every day, you didn't know who to trust. You didn't know, around any corner what was waiting for you. And it was quite an experience. I was in the Combat Engineers in '65. Saw Bob Hope on Christmas Day of '66.
Wow.
That's on YouTube. And, it's really funny because we the company commander sent us out there to save a seat for him. So we're in the front row at about 7:30, and this thing's going to take place at 1, and we're out there sweating. It's 100 degrees at 7:00. And we're out there in the front row, and they made us move back because they put the wounded in front of us and the nurses. Right. So we got to the 3rd row or the 4th row. But I'll never forget that, boy. At the end of the thing, there, we're all singing Silent Night. Our tears are pouring. Their tears are pouring. I'm thinking these people are giving up their lives to come over here and talk to, entertain me. Wow, that was
that was one of the things for me is I didn't think about family too much. I just knew I wanted to survive and get back. But come holidays, the Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, and that kind of stuff. That's the times when you were thinking,
it really hit you.
You're going, what am I doing over here, man? I want to be home, with my family.
I know. Thanksgiving, we're all sitting around there looking at each other like, okay, the mess hall has turkey, but that just ain't the same thing.
What year were you in Vietnam?
66 and 67.
So we're all about the same time. I was there in 66 to 67.
I like to ask because the war changed significantly.
Oh, it did.
Depending on when you were there, you experienced significantly different things.
Well, we were in the early wave then. We were the first ones there.
We were.
Because 65, I guess, was when people started coming. And then we were in that big wave of about 300,000 that came over all at once.
The draft after the...
the draft really... picked
300,000
picked the country clean.
That was the first time, speaking of the draft, when I was at the draft for our induction, the sergeant out there who was, getting us all squared away, comes up and he says okay, we need some Marines. So what we're looking at us for? We're draftees here. So he said, everybody count off from 1 to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And there was about 200 of us there. And so, there was a lot of counting out. And he said, okay, every number 4, step out of line. You're going to the Marines. And you know what? If I wanted to go to the Marines, I would have joined the Marines.
Right, yeah.
But it was really weird. And I talked to fellow Marines, and it was different because Marines don't draft. You have to join the Marines.
That's right.
But they needed Marines at that time, and so they took Marines in that way.
Wow.
That was in '66.
Holy smokes!
Yeah,
I had no idea of that.
So that was really very Anybody out there who can testify to that? Go, yeah, I was there. Because I was being in the Army was bad enough. I thought I don't want to go on the front lines with the Marines. Well, I ended up doing that anyway, being a door gunner in a Huey gunship. I thought, what am I doing out here?
Wow!
Yeah.
You don't want to be everywhere near a helicopter or you on a flying shape.
Yeah.
Tom, did you go in as a unit in '65?
No,
as an individual.
Yeah, I just went in as an individual. Yeah, they went in. Actually, I took 9 weeks of basic training because when I went in, apparently I had some pretty high test scores. So they offered us. We had NCO status during basic training. We took 4 weeks of basic training in 1 week. And then we joined another unit for 4 weeks, the 8 weeks of basic training, and then we did the other 8 weeks in our MOS or our whatever we were going to be.
Wow.
And
in the Marine Corps, you just have one status. It's called maggot.
Well, that was pretty much it. Yeah.
Or sweetheart. Yeah. If the drill instructor was kind.
Well, I did have a sergeant call me a kraut. So,
oh my word!
I thought I need to do something about that, but I didn't. So, and no sense making waves. But anyway, it was pretty funny. We got to take a quick break, gentlemen. If you're just joining us, we're talking with George Morales of the Vietnam vets here in Bozeman. And John Tromsness, Vietnam vet of the same era. We're all three in the same, served in the same time. That's
all
pretty
brothers.
Unusual. So,
we're all brothers.
But we will return with more conversation right after this. All right, a little war. What is it good for? Well, we wondered, didn't we, what we were doing there? We were. I don't know. I was a little older because I did some college before, and like you, I played sports in high school. And or in college as well, and then same thing. Well, with my grades, it was I was in love, so quit athletics. Went to chased a girl to another school that didn't work out. Those things never work out. I don't know why, but so anyway, I was in my I was probably 20 or 21 when I went in, so I was a little older than maybe you guys are. But
18, I was a young. Pulled off the beaches kind of guy. Just stuck me out there in the field of the rice paddies of Vietnam. One thing I got to share with you guys, and I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but the very first day we got there, we landed in Tonsanute Airport, and they said, okay, you guys go. It's called Camp Alpha.
Yeah. And
it's a distributing point, unlike the Marines who go as a unit. We were going to individually. But anyway, they issued us, our bedding, and one thing that they issued us was a mosquito net.
Oh yeah.
But I got to tell you, I didn't sleep with the mosquito net the first night I was there. Then who needs a mosquito? Because it wasn't bad. It was muggy, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
That next morning, man, I was full of welts, and I said, no more.
Yeah.
From that point on, you learn you always sleep with a mosquito net. Always, man. Yeah.
Well, the scorpions are crawling there with you, too.
Oh, there you go.
So
there you go.
The other thing.
Yeah.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with George Morales of the Vietnam Veterans Association here in town, and John Tromsness also served in the military in Vietnam with about the same. We were all there about the same time.
Yeah.
So, it was funny when we all have the experience of our first days when we get there, and I remember they were taking us to this. They were taking us to our holding area, I guess, before we went to our regular unit. And we're out in the middle. I mean, there's nothing out there but this tent. I mean, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. No, there's no vegetation. There's nothing but this tent. And we're getting off the thing, and they said, "Well, guys, this is pretty desolate." And the guy says, who's taking us off, says, "Oh no, we got ice."
Oh my God!
How great!
Because of all my training, I never got into Vietnam till '69.
Oh yeah.
And I was able to transplant an A6 from Whidbey Island to Vietnam. So my introduction was landing on blacktop
Oh yeah.
We popped the canopy. It was 128 degrees.
Yeah.
So I went from about 73 inside the air conditioned cockpit to 120.
I know. Yeah, that's quite a shock.
September 1st of '69. It was a hot day in Vietnam.
Oh, it come down to 80 at night. You need a blanket.
There you go.
I know.
Well, having grown up in northern Colorado, I was used to the cold, but I was amazed at how cold 70 degrees was in December.
When you're used to the other. Let's take a phone call. 522 Talk is the number. Caller, thanks for waiting. You're on the air with John and George. What's up?
Good morning. This is Charity.
Hey.
I just wanted to thank you all for your service.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
There was two reasons I wanted to call. One was just to say that my husband and I have really been missing the patriotic nature that we grew up in, the patriotic communities. And we're both from Oregon. We're both born in 1973, so our fathers were both drafted into Vietnam. His father did not serve in the war theater, but my dad was able to go home because he was an only child. But anyway, just we're curious if there's anywhere in Bozeman, and we were just talking about this last week, so it's good timing. If there's anywhere in Bozeman that's like a little cafe or something like that that promotes just remembering soldiers and stuff. There's a place that we're familiar with from Washington where they allow you to bring in a picture of your soldier, and they'll put it on the wall or put it on a tabletop or things like that. I was just curious, do you guys know of anything like that around here?
I haven't been there yet, but a good buddy of mine said the Sidewinder out on Huffine Lane. Has,
I've been in there. It's got stuff. Yeah, it does have stuff up on the wall.
Yeah, they got some planes hanging from the ceiling and things like that. Kind of loud, but
it's an assaulting place to eat.
It is.
Sorry, Sidewinder. It's really loud.
There's another place, and I've been there, but not on Saturday mornings. But I hear right here on Wilson, the little coffee shop or donut shop on the other side of
Wild Joe's.
Is it Wild Joe's?
Okay.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I bring my own. So.
Wilson in Maine. There's a coffee shop. It's on Wilson, on the south side of Main Street. It's on the west side of the street, and I forget the name of it. It is a little coffee shop, but it's a veteran who owns it, and I talked to him, and he has on Saturday mornings. He says a bunch of veterans just come over, and we just share stuff, and I don't know about pictures and that, but. I just, like I said, personally, I have not been there, so I don't know exactly, but he was inviting me. He says, yeah, come on Saturday mornings. We just hang out and talk veteran stuff. So if you're familiar with that area, that Wilson in Maine, it's going south, not even a block, and it's on the west side of Wilson. So I forget, it's the only donut coffee shop, pastry shop there. So, but that's the only place that I know of.
I will look for it.
Yeah.
Yes, I do miss that kind of just
Maybe
environment that it's very Bozeman feels like it's totally walked away from that to me.
Well, I don't want to talk negative, but I know when I first got here, Bozeman, there was not a lot of veteran stuff going on, and over the years, Bozeman has gotten very, very more and more patriotic, I guess, as we want to call it. Now we have the Memorial Day Parade, which is a great parade. Yeah, and but other than that, there's a lot of veterans activities going on. I'm not pushing this because it's a little far away, but there's also going to be on July 6th of this coming summer at the Commons building. There's going to be an appreciation event for military veterans and first responders, and it's going to be a great thing. It's in the planning stages right now, but you sort of have to, have your eyes open and look around to see what's going on as far as that kind of stuff. But as far as just fellowship, hanging out with other veterans, I really don't know. Like I said, you can try that coffee shop, that donut shop.
Yeah. Okay. Or obviously the American Legion or the,
of course, the American Legion.
Any of those places, VFW or also, but that would be an excellent idea for some of folks to get together and share a cup of coffee and do some do some conversation, learn a little bit about each other, not necessarily what they did in the war, but what they're doing now. Those kinds of things.
Maybe George and I ought to drop by there after you kick us out.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Well, there you go, Charity. I'll meet you at the coffee shop here in about half an hour or so.
Well, I just want to say that I have 2 nephews that have joined the Marines in this last year and a half.
Well, good for you.
All right.
So I just want to. I want to help them know that I appreciate them in this kind of way too. So
absolutely.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot.
Guys.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, thanks a lot. Yeah. Let's see from our text line 478-8298. Thank you all, and God bless you from a Vietnam era vet. So there you go. So got another vet listening to us, so that's always good.
Good.
So yeah. Well, we've got, what do we got here? We got about 2 minutes left here, guys, before I have to kick you out to the curb. So
I just want to say,
anybody want to drop and give me 20 before you go?
Been there, done that, Tom. I came down out of Alberta, Canada to Bozeman. I was going to work on another degree at MSU.
Oh, yeah.
And so I really appreciate you and Sean.
Yeah,
because he gives us that Canadian perspective.
Oh yeah. He's he's been quiet. He's been kind of quiet. Shane, you got anything to say to these guys? Or oh, wait a minute, I got to turn him up. There you go.
Welcome home, gentlemen.
Hey,
thank you very much, Shane.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, well, we appreciate you guys coming in very much. Thanks so much. Good
Absolutely.
Nice to see you again, George. Nice to meet you, John.
Yeah.
It's good to meet you too, Tom.
We're happy to give you guys time. If you got anything going on, by all means, let me know.
I would just say one thing out there for the general public. How you can thank a veteran, especially if he's got a hat on or a shirt on. Buy the guy a cup of coffee. Or sometimes if you see him sitting down having a breakfast or a meal, it's so appreciative. The guys, I know a lot of Vietnam vets who I've just because I have my hat on, will get something paid for, and it's just so appreciative that they're thinking about you.
We're wearing the hat to get that done, but it is appreciated. And as I mentioned earlier, if you see a Vietnam vet, welcome home is what we didn't get, what we would like to get,
right.
and welcome home is. Isn't as politically correct, I guess, as thank you for your service.
That's
right. It's a little more personal for us than it is for the military in general.
Yeah.
So,
and Tom, we appreciate you coming back on stream and being on the radio.
Yeah,
all right. Really enjoy your voice. So,
well, thank you very much.
Keep hanging in there.
Well, I'm doing my best.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Greg Gianforte will be in the studio next, so we'll be chatting with him. And we thank John and George for being here with us today, and all the Vietnam vets out there listening to us. We really appreciate you, and welcome home to all of you as well. So we'll be back right after the news and all that other things that we do at this time of the day.
All right.
All right, 23 minutes before the top of the hour. It's Friday, March 29th, 2019, Vietnam Appreciation Day. 33 degrees outside. Shaman Talbot on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Half man, half amazing. And Tom Eaglehoff, your morning mayor in the house. And pleasure to see my old friend of 20-some years, I think, Greg Gianforte in the house. How you doing?
Tom, good to be with you this morning.
Oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Catastrophe.
That's all right. Thank you. I just spilled my coffee all over my computer. All right. Well, other than that, everything's going great. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
I shouldn't call you Greg. I
am
guess.
so No, I'm still Greg in Montana, and I am really pleased to be back here. We had a week in Washington, and I was pleased. Wednesday this week, we got to honor a Montanan who had paid the ultimate sacrifice with the Medal of Honor. I was in the East Wing with the president, and his folks are coming home today. Yeah. So we're going to be out at the airport greeting them.
Yeah, that's it's been in the news, and I think that a lot of people were disappointed about the high school. We thought the high school should have been named after him. Didn't seem like they wanted to consider that, but at any rate, it's great to have somebody of that honor from our own hometown here, and just to.
I entered a bill with Senator Daines to name the local VA facility after Travis Atkins,
and we saw that. We reported
and that's
that.
something I have within my purview. I can't tell him what to name the school, but I can work on the
you
VA
could
facility.
work on the VA. All right. Well, and you're here for the Montana Congressional Veteran Commendation Ceremony. That's one of the things that you're going to be doing here.
Yeah, we're going to be honoring Len Albright and Harry Armstrong later today. This is a program that we initiated to honor people who have served in uniform. And so we put the word out to the veterans community. We get submissions from across the state. And then I read their record into the congressional record, and I fly a flag over the U.S. Capitol in their honor. So I'll present those two flags today here in Bozeman later. And it's a great way to honor people that have served their country honorably and then come back and served in the community. And it's a way to honestly honor all veterans through those individuals that received the commendation.
Today, as you know, is Vietnam Appreciation Day, or Vietnam Vet Appreciation Day, I guess I should say. So this is an ideal time to do that because we, I think all veterans deserve recognition, certainly. And I think we have more per capita in Montana than any other state.
It's very high. It's over 10%. And
some fluke years ago that got us all in there.
Well, I think Montanans love this country, and they're honored to serve in uniform, and we have a debt of obligation that we can't fully ever repay.
No, that's going to be great. The other thing, you just went to China. So
I did.
What's going on with Xi?
Well, we met with we were there just last week, and we had meetings with the highest officials short of Xi. We met with the number 2 gentleman in China. We were there because of trade, because Montana and America needs free and open access to foreign markets. I was encouraged by the conversations. It was a bipartisan group that went. There were 6 members of Congress. It was the first congressional delegation to be in China this year, and we had access at the highest levels. We were in Hong Kong, Hangzhou, and then Beijing, and we had. I was encouraged. I also was with the president in the Oval Office here 3 weeks ago, talking specifically about trade, and he purposely did not expand the tariffs as of March 1st.
Right.
And what he shared with us was that they feel they're getting close on these negotiations. I will say that in the meetings we're in, the Chinese were saying the right things. We sometimes have problems with them saying the right things and doing something else. But we're going to keep up the pressure. The message was, this is not a partisan issue. Democrats, Republicans, and the president are aligned that we need a better deal with China to make sure we can get access to these markets.
Well, with our trade deficit, which would you rather have? You want a big trade deficit, or do you want them to come to the table and let's make things a little more fair? I saw the other day our trade deficit went down about 15% because of soybean sales, which is good for the farmers here. So that's a good thing, and I think they've committed to buy more soybeans, I believe. Now, whether they will or not, as you say, is another story.
Well, we want them to buy more. Yeah. We also need them to respect intellectual property, and they've been stealing our technology. Well, and I raised that in every issue that if they want to be part of the global community, they need to abide by the rules that everybody else plays by.
Yeah,
they can't just steal stuff and make it their own.
Well, we're seeing companies leave the mainland there because of that very reason, that their intellectual property is being taken, and if you have one piece from here and one piece from there, you can kind of put them together and figure it out. And they're not dumb people, certainly. So
that's right. Well, we toured some technology firms. We toured a number of automobile manufacturers. Interesting to me. The approach that the president is taking is working. I met with one group there. They said domestic car sales in China are down 20% year over year.
Yeah.
So their economy is definitely slowing. They need access to our markets, and we need access to their markets. We ought to be able to figure this out.
Yeah. We got to take a short break, so we're talking with our Congressman Greg Gianforte from Bozeman, Montana.
Let's get you another cup of coffee.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's plenty in there, I think. Good thing I had the lid on it. All right, we'll be right back with more with Greg Gianforte right after this. 13 minutes for the top of the hour. It's Friday, March 29, 2019, Vietnam Appreciation Day, and it's 33 degrees outside. Jamie Dobbin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia, and in studio we have Greg Gianforte, our congressman from Washington, D.C. Thanks for coming. Happy to have you here with me.
Tom, good to be with you.
Yeah, always good to see you when you're in town, so we appreciate it.
I'm back in Montana every weekend.
Yeah.
So
well,
I'm proud that since getting sworn in and having the great honor of serving the state, I have not spent a weekend in D.C. yet.
Well, all right. Good for you. From our text line, ask Greg, what is the goal with China? To have them sell fewer cell phones or have them buy more soybeans? So what's the goal of winning this war?
That's a really good question. I mean, honestly, we've seen unfair trade practices from China. In particular, they'll buy one of cell phones is a good example. They might run a factory for Apple during the day, and then in the evening they'll run it for themselves, just put a different label on it.
Yeah.
So they just steal the technology. And there have also been situations where there's been forced technology transfer. American inventors, ingenuity, innovations are just taken, pirated, either sold in the domestic market or products are knocked off and shipped back to the U.S. There has been unfair trade practices. It is costing American consumers a lot of money. So there's two things we're trying to achieve with China. One is respect intellectual property laws and no forced transfer. Secondly, we want reciprocal trade agreements so that our ag products can go there and what they manufacture can come here under similar terms so that there isn't an arbitrary wall in one direction and not one in the other direction. That was the message we were delivering to China, the senior leadership there when we were there in Beijing last week. Ambassador Lighthizer showed up on Sunday. They're continuing the negotiations. We heard in the news here in the last couple of days there's been some additional progress. We don't quite have a deal yet. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard with them, particularly with the technology, and with Xi making himself premier for life. There's not a whole lot of incentive for him to, he's not going to be voted out if he doesn't do the right thing or whatever. So I think that sort of gives him and the culture of the Chinese, as you know, we've got to save face. We've got to have an agreement that, we can present to the people that looks like we won. So that's the hard part of these negotiations is how do you get a win-win situation between the two countries?
Well, we have the largest economy in the world here in the U.S., and they want access to it.
Yeah, they do.
So that's the lever we have, and they want to be a respected member of the world community. They're now part of WTO, and we've had a number of disputes with them. All of them gotten resolved. But it takes like a year and a half. Yeah. So we just want them to play by the rules, and that should be ensconced in a trade deal with China.
Yeah. Well, before the trades, I think 95% of the non-agricultural stuff came in here with no tariff at all. I mean, it was just, I think 320 million of the most affluent customers on earth there should be some penalty or some fee to access those people.
Well, I'm a free market guy. I think we should have, generally, if there isn't any state sponsorship or subsidy or other unfair trade practice, the best tariff is a zero tariff. It ought to go both ways.
Well, I think we don't, nobody is in favor of tariffs. They're a tool. They're a tool in the negotiation. And again, from our text line, 478-8298, we learned at Econ 101 that tariffs are paid by Americans, not China. Greg needs to teach the President of the United States this basic fact. And I know from being in business, you know a little bit about business trade back and forth. So, I'm not sure there's anything you can teach the President, but
I agree with the individual who texted in. I'm a fan of free markets. But we have, in this case, a group that is not playing by the world rules.
Sure.
And I think we're close to a deal, and that was encouraging. We need access to China's market for our ag producers here in Montana.
We do, yeah.
And for our growing, we just found out our tech industry in Montana is now over $2 billion a year, growing almost 9 times the rate of the rest of the economy. we have intellectual property to protect as well. So we really need both sides of this trade deal to get resolved.
Do we need two agreements, one for intellectual property and then one for trade?
Intellectual property is trade.
Yeah.
I think it's all tied together. And honestly, it's the tariffs that have brought China to the table on the intellectual property. I will say, when we met with the number 2 guy in China, we met with the head, the Communist Party secretary for one of the largest provinces. They have 57 million people. They all said the right things. We will not do forced technology transfer. Now, when we met with the business community, they didn't necessarily say their practices lined up with what they're saying, but they just did pass a new law there that says there will not be forced technology transfer, and that they'll give foreign companies the same rights in the courts as domestic companies. Again, there's always been a gap between their policy and their practice, but they're saying the right things. They've done it before. That's why I'm proud of the president putting some teeth in these negotiations. But as I communicated to the ambassador there, Terry Branstad, when we met in the embassy in Beijing, we need to bring these negotiations to a close so we can get back to free and open trade.
Right. From our text line for Greg, we need you in Congress. Thanks for all you do. And being you, don't run for governor this time. We need Tim.
Well, I appreciate the input.
So whatever. Well,
I just want to say it's an honor to represent Montana back in, and I take that very seriously, and I appreciate the sentiment of the caller. Our freedoms need to be protected back in Washington, and I'm proud to do it.
Well, and we it must be tough in the House with the AOC and some of the other folks that are.
Tom, I can tell you stories, and I'll tell you one.
Okay.
So we just had a debate here a couple of weeks ago about gun rights. Now, I'm a firm. I will always defend the Second Amendment. However, there are those that think somehow through regulations we can reduce violent crime, and we all agree we don't want guns in the hands of criminals, and so there's some issues. But they put these progressive left put a bill on the House floor that would require universal background checks. I think that's just a step towards a national registry for guns. It's absolutely the wrong thing to do. I voted against it. But let me explain to the folks what that would do. Under this bill that got put forward by the Democrats, if you and I went hunting and my rifle jammed and you loaned me your rifle for the remainder of the day, just loaned it to me, because you didn't do a 3-day background check on me first, you're going to jail for a year and paying a $100,000 fine.
Wow.
It's also the case now, if you're working on your place and you're out and you get into a situation in the back pasture and you call me and say, hey, Greg, could you come over, jump in the pickup down at the home place and come up because I got a piece of equipment I need. If you'd help me out that way, that'd be a big deal. And you happen to have a varmint rifle behind the seat. Because you didn't do a background check, you're going to jail for a year, $100,000 fine. This is great. Now, there's good news and bad news. The bad news is that bill, that universal background check bill, passed the U.S. House.
Yeah.
It passed. I voted against it. That's the bad news. The good news is it's dead on arrival in the Senate, and the president will not sign it. He would veto it.
Yeah.
But these are some of these progressive ideas that represent that folks just don't understand our way of life or the intent of the Constitution.
Yeah. Again, from our text line, someone needs to explain to the President of the United States that trade deficits are a sign of a strong dollar. Budget deficits are a sign of an overspending government. So
we do have a spending problem. I agree with that. Yeah, and that's why last year I voted against both of the omnibus bills. I have very clear marching orders from the people of Montana. That is, we got to get spending under control. I was pleased to be with the president here 3 weeks ago. I'm now chairman of a task force on government reform and efficiency. We're collecting up the best conservative ideas on ways we can make government work better and reduce the size of the administrative state, which honestly our founding fathers never envisioned. So we were in the Oval Office for an hour and a half with the president, meeting one-on-one, talking about how we could further those ideas. and I'll continue to work on them.
Mm-hmm. Not to tell stories out of school, I guess. Is Nancy? Is she getting control of this group, or are they just refusing to listen to her? Because the other day when the report came out, the Mueller report, all of the other networks, all the left-wing networks, switched to healthcare all day long, and that's what Nancy wanted to talk about. So is she going to control AOC and some of these other folks, or
at this point, AOC and Omar and Tlaib have taken over the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look at their their agenda, one of their first bills was the first bill that they introduced was taxpayer-funded federal elections. Mm-hmm. That was HR 1.
Yeah,
HR 8, we talked about it, was a universal background checks for guns. They went to single-payer health care that would double federal spending.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have the Green New Deal, which would get rid of airplanes, rebuild every home and building in North America, and it would even eliminate farting cows. I mean, it's just, it's these are crazy left-wing ideas, but it is AOC, Tlaib, and Omar. Mm-hmm. Oh, and mix a little anti-Semitism in there.
Right, yeah.
And that is those are the thought leaders in the Democrat Party today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Our next guest, Jennifer Bordy, attorney at law, is going to brief us on everything.
So I think, honestly, Nancy Pelosi, believe it or not, is a moderate now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's hard to say, isn't it? Hard to think of anyway. Oh, boy. I don't know. That's well, Greg, we're almost out of time. Any parting thoughts here that we need to make sure people know that you're going to be at this Montana Congressional Veteran Commendation ceremony? And where is that going to be held at?
That'll be at the Legion Hall downtown
the Legion Hall.
here.
Okay. Yep. All right. And what time?
2:00.
2:00. Okay.
Yeah, we'll be honoring Len Albright and Harry Armstrong for their service to country and to community. I'll be presenting flags that I flew in their honor over the U.S. Capitol.
Okay.
And reading their bios that from
terrific
the Congressional Record.
All right. Great to see you. Thanks for coming in. Always a pleasure. Anytime you need airtime, we're here for you. So
thank you, Tom.
We'll talk to you soon.
If I can help, just reach out.
And we'll do. All right. That'll wrap it up for this segment. And Jennifer Bordy is in the wings. She'll be up next. And so we'll be talking about all things legal. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. 5 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock, it's Friday, March 29th, 2019, 33 degrees outside. It's Vietnam Vet Appreciation Day. Welcome, everyone. Shane Matobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia, and Half Man, Half Amazing. And Shane and Tommy Goff in the house, and I do apologize to Shane because I had no idea he was friends with Greg and should have let him at least say hello and whatever. And I apologize, Shane, for that publicly.
No problem.
Well, it was a problem. I should know better.
No. That's okay. Jennifer, welcome to the house.
Hi, Shane. How you doing?
I'm doing great. What you got to talk about?
Oh, we kind of have a smorgasbord of topics today, although almost all of them, but not quite. There's one that doesn't have to do with what the U.S. Supreme Court is or isn't doing. You know, I'm going to preface that, too, by saying I don't think I have ever talked so much about what the U.S. Supreme Court isn't doing as I have in the last, maybe 6 months or so. But it turns out to be pretty interesting most of the time. And the first one is a follow-up, really, to our discussion last week about gun control, which is after the massacre in Las Vegas. And I'm going to confess right now, this is not a type of firearm or accessory to a firearm I'm particularly familiar with, so pardon me if I make some mistake in trying to describe what's going on. But apparently the man that shot everybody at the Las Vegas country music concert used a bump stock attachment to his gun, and that's why he was able to fire so rapidly or so often. You're probably better, more familiar with me. I'd never even heard of a bump stock before. So
I don't think most of us had before that. I hadn't. So
one thing that's happened since then, and in light of everybody's complaint, like, see how fast New Zealand moved to ban a certain type of firearm after a massacre. Well, there has been a ban of the bump stocks of the type that were used in the Las Vegas shooting, and President Trump does support that ban as well. It is being challenged through the courts, and what the U.S. Supreme Court did earlier this week is they refused to strike the ban while the litigation is pending. So that it's, again, something they didn't do. I guess you could say they did it because their action was not to do to upset what a lower court had ruled, that the ban would remain in place. Quite often when you see something like that, not necessarily related to gun control, but almost anything, if there's litigation over it, there could be a stay, if you will, on whatever it is being used or however it applies while litigation is pending. And that's what's happened here. And the U.S. Supreme Court has refused to disturb that ruling by a lower court. So we do at this time have a bump stock ban in effect. There's litigation moving through the courts on that, I think in Michigan mostly. And we'll see what happens. But I'm going to hazard one of my, and I will remind you that one of my predictions was accurate, by the way. But one of my predictions is that bump stock ban is probably going to survive judicial review because it's not necessarily a firearm itself, but an attachment to a firearm. So my guess is we might have that forever.
Okay, okay, I'll throw in my guess. I think that they haven't, they refused to hear it is because they want to see what the lower courts write about it. And they want to reference that in their decision, and they will say it's unconstitutional.
Well, I guess we'll see. That's one of the ones we can watch. It'll be a while. And it may or may not make it all the way back up to the U.S. Supreme Court. That may not. They generally, in fact, they have chosen gun control case out of New York to hear this term. I don't think they've heard it yet. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's not been oral argument yet. But there has to be soon. I think they stopped oral arguments. Must be April. But anyway.
Yeah.
At any rate,
we usually talk about it in June.
But that's because they have to issue all their decisions by June 30th.
Yeah.
But so they rarely choose gun control cases to hear. Yeah. So we'll see.
Second Amendment's pretty clear. And
after D.C. versus Heller, they obviously don't think it needs too much more clarification, and yet they have chosen this case from New York. And I know we talked about it when they decided to hear it, and I can't remember the details.
I don't know if you heard a little bit of what Greg was talking about with the Second Amendment, the bill that passed the House. If I loan you my rifle, if mine jams and I loan you my rifle, I'm in violation of the universal background check because I haven't done a background check on you to give you my weapon. And I'm subject to a fine and imprisonment and all the other stuff. So
I need to look at that legislation. It's hard to believe that even that type of scenario might be covered, but it might be. Yeah. I mean, sometimes obviously that's a problem with legislation that's way overbroad. If it could be applied in that manner, that would probably get struck down. But to have a universal registration, meaning even at gun shows, there has to be a background check or person to person if you sell.
Yeah. Now that makes sense. But I mean, if I just give you, if we both have registered firearms and I give you mine, but I didn't do a background check on you, it seems a little much. So let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you are on the Morning Soapbox with Jennifer. What's up?
Yeah, there's a product called Hellfire.
Okay.
And it goes on the trigger. And it's already been to court. And it's BATF approved. And it's like a $20 deal. And all you do is put it on the trigger on certain guns. And as long as you're holding it, it's not making it auto, but it sure as heck sounds like and acts like it does. Because it keeps pushing back. It's somewhat similar to the bump stock. I already said bump stock.
Bump stock.
But it's only on the trigger, so it's not actually changing the gun. But
Are you saying that was banned and it's been through the courts and the courts overturned the ban?
No, it was never banned, but it was taken to court.
On what basis?
Because it was making a gun automatic fire, but see, it doesn't make it automatic fire. And it was upheld in that court decision. And I don't know if that was to throughout the country or if that was just Nevada. But that is the same thing that at the Branch Davidian, when they said they had the automatic weapons, they had Hellfire triggers on the guns. And it's just a little tiny spring-loaded deal, and as long as you keep your finger on the trigger, it'll keep pushing it back. So it's like rapid fire, but not auto fire.
All right. Well, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go talk to you.
All right.
Not aware.
Yeah, I just looked it up. It's it's a thing that fits on the trigger mechanism and
Okay, I guess.
makes it a semi-automatic. But let's see. Actually, there are 3 rapid-fire devices not covered in the ban. The Gatling cranks affixed to the outside of the gun, I guess, and you turn like a Gatling gun.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Pull and release triggers modify a trigger so both the backward motion of the trigger, the pull, and the forward motion of the trigger, the release, each fire a bullet. So when you pull it back, it fires. When you release it, it fires.
Wow.
So that may be what they were talking about. And then Hellfire triggers are small springs that the gun owner can affix to the back of the trigger that pushes it back into firing position, allowing the shooter to pull the trigger more quickly and in rapid succession. So when you pull the trigger, it comes back faster. So you can pull the trigger faster. So
Well, I probably should have reread it. I read it when it first went into effect, but the bump stock ban, I'm pretty sure it's really narrow. I think it is just bump stocks.
Yeah. Well, that's what they said. These are 3 things that are not covered in it. So ban on bump stocks.
Which is another reason it might withstand judicial review. But
yeah. The bump stock doesn't cover accessories that achieve a similar effect, it says. So it's just going to be, I guess, limited to that one item.
But at any rate, that was a follow-up to last week's discussion, and one that it'll probably be a while before we see anything more on it. But I just thought it was significant that the U.S. Supreme Court declined to overturn the stay or the ban in effect while the litigation is pending. So I wanted to bring that up. And actually, I think I'll skip to the one item I have today that isn't at the Supreme Court level, and I don't think it's ever going to get there, actually. It's about a settlement. But it's interesting because 37 states, including Montana, so that's one of the things that's really significant, have sued Purdue Pharma. I guess they're one of the big ones. I hadn't really heard of them. You think more of like Merck and Eli Lilly and some others. Pfizer, that's another biggie. But Purdue Pharma is apparently the main manufacturer of OxyContin. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't that what Rush Limbaugh was addicted to that resulted in a little bit of trouble for him?
Yeah, his back issue, and he was...
well, it's very addictive, addictive. And so 37 states, and as well as probably about 2,000 other lawsuits, I think most of them have been consolidated to one court in Ohio. But the states have individually sued Purdue Pharma and a couple of other people, including... or corporations, I should say, including Johnson & Johnson, that's one we've all heard of, about the false advertising they feel in relationship to it, some other aspects of the problems with marketing and even producing OxyContin. And recently, Purdue settled $270 million with Oklahoma. That's just one state. And that's not the first time they've actually settled things. There were some other issues. There actually was even a criminal case against it in 2007, and they were fined, I don't know, $645 million or something like that. And so there's really been a lot going on. But the fact that Purdue has settled with Oklahoma signifies there's probably going to be settlements with every other state that's sued it, including Montana. So there'll probably be some money coming our way.
I would think so, yeah.
Oklahoma has earmarked that money to help fight, obviously, the addiction and also increase law enforcement. In fact, one of the bases for these lawsuits is that their production of OxyContin and their false marketing of OxyContin has led to increased law enforcement costs, obviously health-related benefits and costs. And so that the money that they get from the settlement, at least in Oklahoma, and I think it'll probably be the same in every state.
Probably will,
settlement is going to be earmarked for productive things, I guess we'll put it that way. So, so that was interesting, and it'll be interesting to watch and see what does Montana get out of it.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break, and we'll. You want to tease your next item before we take the break?
Oh, well, let's see. Yeah, let's talk about the Mueller investigation when we come back a little bit.
Okay, well, that's always a good topic to talk about.
A prediction of mine that was right.
All right. All right, we'll be right back with Jennifer Bordy right after this. All right, 20 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock, Friday, March 29, 2019, Vietnam Veterans Day. And
by the way, Tom,
yes,
we appreciate you, a Vietnam vet.
Well, thank you very much for that. And we got a caller on the line. Let's take a call, and then we'll talk about the Mueller report. Ooh. Caller, you on the air. What's up?
I guess I'm preempting things, Tom. Good morning, gentlemen, and distinguished lady.
All right.
Hey, welcome home, Tom.
Thank you.
I was going to comment on the Mueller report. Just two quick things, if I may. Number one, obviously Mueller was their fair-haired boy. The accolades were unceasing, thorough, the consummate professional, man of the highest integrity. And wouldn't you think if the summation by William Barr was anyway so substantively inaccurate, he would have said something? Because remember, this is a man of highest integrity. It's his report. And I would think if that were me and I had that level of professionalism, I would certainly find a way to dispute, the summation if there were any substantive errors in there. And second,
I'm not sure he can, by the way, but that is probably he's probably not allowed to comment any further than submitting the report. But regardless,
couldn't he at least say there are errors in the summation presented by William Barr?
Why would you want him to? Apparently, there weren't anyway. So, I mean, it wouldn't behoove us to have an Attorney General of the United States that couldn't accurately summarize a report. So I'm not exactly sure what point you're trying to make.
Well, they're obviously questioning the integrity of William Barr, and that also is real suspect to me.
Oh, you mean?
Well, I think the left feels that Mueller didn't do his job,
well,
and Barr is further covering it up.
But this is the whole thing that I've missed.
Crucifying Trump at this point, Tom, is him not doing his job.
Yeah.
This is the whole point everybody on both sides have missed.
Yeah.
Which is, it's not detrimental, if you will, to anybody's reputation or anything like that if you have an investigation. That's why you have investigations, to find out. But on the other hand, we had the investigation. He didn't find anything, which, by the way, was my prediction, that there was not going to be collusion with Russia found about the election. And so I'm not in terms of you're saying people are questioning Barr's integrity.
Yes.
Oh, I see. I didn't catch that. I hadn't read that. So.
And if it was inaccurate, then wouldn't if in other words,
if it's not inaccurate,
well, they're just grasping at straws.
Well, but what I'm saying is, if you presented a report to me and I reported it inaccurately, would you have a say, or could you say anything?
I might not be able to. I don't think Mueller has.
That's what I'm getting at.
I think that's part of the requirements. He does no public speaking.
Yeah, once he submits a report, he has a gag order on him, and he can't comment.
I mean, that's why he has to submit the report only to the Attorney General.
Yeah.
It's not because he can disseminate anything publicly. Okay. And that would include commenting on the Attorney General's summary. In my opinion, that would include.
And I think some other ones, the Congress has voted to put the whole report out public. That was presented to the Attorney General, I think, in the Starr report, and there was one or two others, I think. So. And
that might still happen.
And
we don't know that
but they
sure.
still can't put out grand jury witness names or grand jury witness testimony.
That's always.
Yeah, that's always secret. Yeah.
Which is what brings me to what I really wanted to talk about besides.
And thanks for the call.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I say one more thing, Tom?
Real quick.
Nancy Pelosi was on the TV, too, also saying, the summation, they want to read it for themselves, how demeaning, condescending it was that they summarized things for her. I I wish I could talk to her face to face. I'd say that's the same way, Nancy, we felt about the Affordable Care Act.
Well, I was going to say,
just pass it. We'll tell you what's in it later.
Later,
How
yeah.
condescending.
There you go. Thanks. All
I
right.
guess if the shoe fits.
Yeah. Thanks for the call. All right. Shane, you got something going on?
Well, I'd just like to make an observation.
Sure.
Unlike Comey, Mueller followed protocol, and his report was to be filed with the Justice Department and the Attorney General. He wasn't to go out and make a speech or
Right.
draw his own short conclusion. It would have been an absolute outrage for the Attorney General not to at least draw a conclusion of his report to release to the American people. You've waited 2 years to hear exactly what maybe happened. And you will eventually, but the job of Barr was to at least make an announcement to the American people as to the overall view of the report. He did his job, protocol was followed, and everybody is confused by it because what Comey did. That's why.
Well, everybody, I think, in this instance did their job. I think that Mueller did his job. He investigated, and the investigation didn't find what some people wanted and what other people expected. Like me, but on the other hand, but there's nothing wrong with having an investigation.
No, there isn't.
That's why we have them.
Yeah.
You find out if something went wrong.
Let's take another call, and then we're coming up against the bottom of the hour. Caller, you are on the air with Jennifer Bordy. What's up?
I'd just like to say that William Barr was brought in to do what he did, the 4 pages of nonsense, and he did this. If you look on the cover of the New York Times in 1992. William Barr has done this before. He got George Bush Sr. off from the Iran-Contra deal when he recommended that Bush pardon the 5 people, including Casper Weinberger and all them people. He's done this before. So I believe that Congress needs to read the whole thing.
Oh, I agree. I think they should read the whole thing.
I do agree with that, too. I do think the whole thing actually should be released for everybody to see.
And I was
at least Congress.
I was surprised after a 2-year investigation, all the witnesses and everything, the report's only 300 pages. You'd think it'd be like 4,000.
Yeah, well.
But, of course, they want all the witness names. They want all the testimonies and all of the other stuff, all the underlying documents, too. And I'm not sure how anybody's going to have time to read all of that before 2020.
Yeah, well, at least it's shorter than the Affordable Care Act bill was, I guess. Nobody read before they passed.
But if you remember back, the only thing that Mueller was commissioned to do was to find out if there was collusion between,
That's true, but any special prosecutor is also able to
if there are things that
diverge
split
branches,
off from that. Yeah.
Just like Kenneth Starr, ultimately the only thing they got Clinton on was lying about his sex life.
Yeah, but
as opposed to Whitewater.
But he just lied to the wrong people.
Yeah, well, true. But I still kind of feel like that's the one thing people are allowed to lie about.
Well, let's hope so. Yeah. Size does matter. Is that what you're telling me? All right.
Well, that particular sex act, we don't know.
We're going to have to go back. We're gonna have to clean this program up a little bit. So.
Yes.
All right.
But I didn't even get to what I wanted to say the U.S. Supreme Court did with Mueller. So
right, we'll do this after the break. All right. We'll be right back. 23 minutes for the top of the hour. I'm sitting with the law babe, Jennifer Bordy, Shee Matavin on the line from Vancouver, British Columbia. And, we're talking about the Mueller investigation. And one of the things I wondered about, when you have a special prosecutor like this, the party that they're after has no right to cross-examine any of the witnesses or see the accusatory information to verify whether it's accurate or inaccurate.
There's something wrong with your question right off the bat.
What's that?
It has nothing to do with whether this is a special prosecution or a special prosecutor investigating any grand jury. There is never anything other than what is presented by the prosecution.
Okay.
The defendant never has a chance to challenge
not in the
or
not
be
in,
present
well,
or
not,
anything.
Yeah, it's called ex parte.
Yeah, not in the grand jury, but in the because we've got, what do we got? 2,800 subpoenas, 500 search warrants. We've got 500 witnesses that were interviewed, and I don't think they were all interviewed in the grand jury.
No. You interview witnesses outside so that you know what to present to the grand jury.
Okay. But I think...
but it's always slanted, too.
Yeah. But I think, not being able to talk to those witnesses before they go into the grand jury and say whatever they want to say, is that
That's
unfair
the
to the
no.
person you're after? So how
well,
do they,
apparently
do
not,
they,
because
do
that
they,
has been the system forever. Although I will say, at least in Montana, we could do things by grand jury, but we never do.
Okay.
I've never known a grand jury.
So let's assume for the sake of argument that Mueller did find collusion with Russians.
Okay.
Okay. Would Trump's attorneys have the right to go back and call these 500 witnesses and
if they were going to testify at any trial, yes. After the grand jury issues indictments, then you go through the regular process where then a person has the right to confront witnesses and all of that good stuff.
All right.
Well, the question really is, when did Mueller know there was no collusion? Because he was taking all these people to grand juries. We've seen the numbers of people, the investigation, the files, everything they looked at. And no grand jury that he took anything to could he get any kind of a charge against the president, which is why...
I don't think he tried.
Oh, yes, he did.
No,
and that's why... Let me finish, please. That's why his lawyers refused to answer any questions, because unless they're going to charge him with something, there's no reason for him to answer any questions.
Well, and I'm sorry, but that's really misinformation. Mueller did not at any point try to indict the president. He never presented a request for an indictment to the grand jury against the president. The request for indictments that he did present that we're aware of because the grand jury granted them are the ones, for example, against Cohen and Manafort and
Papadopoulos and all the other
those are the people he asked the grand jury to indict, and they did indict. But he did not even ask them to indict the president. Yeah.
They did submit questions to the president, or they did ask him if he wanted to testify.
That's part of the investigation. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the phones. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you are on the air. What's going on?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Pete.
Good morning, Pete.
I have an observation and a question, a hypothetical for Jennifer. And my observation is this: everybody's assuming that to see the rest of the Mueller report, that it's going to somehow cast a shadow on Trump. It may be the other way around. It may be that the Democrats are just going to open up another can of worms, because there was a lot of shenanigans going on that Mueller had to know about, as far as I'm concerned. The hypothetical is this: right now, under the states that have the red flag gun laws, it has to be a family member or a police officer. So suppose I don't like Jennifer, and I got an axe to grind with Jennifer, let's say, and I go to a police officer. I'm not a family member of Jennifer's, but I go to a police officer and say, hey, Jennifer's been saying some real crazy things, and I know she has weapons, and maybe somebody should look into this. What's going to happen then?
They might look into it.
Yeah, well...
And shouldn't they? Isn't your approach to a police officer with a concern a valid thing that they should probably investigate?
Well, sure, they can investigate it, but the way they're carrying out this now, if it's a family member or a police officer...
I'm not sure what you mean by that. What is supposed to be a family member or police officer?
Well, that's what it says. That's what the state laws that are out there now are.
Say about what?
I know there may be some that say anybody can, but I'm saying pretty much what they've said every time I've heard anybody talk about it in government is that it's a police officer or a family member.
I don't understand what is an officer or a family member.
Don't understand what?
Yeah.
I didn't hear.
What needs to be an officer or a family member to do what?
They're the only ones that can go to the court and say, hey, we need to intervene.
Okay, well, that's not true, but okay.
Well, it'll be the police officer, no doubt. I understand that. But to me, some accuse this guy of whatever, okay? He's got guns and he's talking a little crazy, blah, blah, blah. And then the police show up at 5:15 a.m. in the morning, beat down his door. I don't know if that's such a good idea. You can't make a phone call and say, hey, we'd like to come over and talk to you. They just go pound
I'm not sure where your question is for me, but yeah, they should investigate. I don't understand. If somebody has a concern that somebody with severe mental health issues, or at least mental health issues, has weapons, and the follow-up to that would be, do you think that they will use them to hurt themselves or somebody else? And yes, of course, it should be investigated.
Jennifer, here's what I'm saying. If it isn't a family member, okay, I could go claim anything. Okay,
anybody can report to law enforcement. You don't have to be a family member.
Well, if
I don't know why you think
you, I'm just saying, if I want to harass you, and there's no family connection between you and I just go down to the police station, I can be lying through my teeth.
You could be, and some people are.
And
I had a case like that where the 12-year-old daughter was just mad at her dad and claimed he was suicidal, and the police showed up. He clearly wasn't suicidal, but they harassed him until he started getting upset, and then they pepper sprayed him. It's like,
all right.
I'm done with that.
I gotta go, guys.
But yeah, they had to investigate because the girl was calling and said her dad was suicidal.
I'm up against the clock. Hey, thanks, Pete.
Yep.
All right, thanks a lot. We'll be right back. 13 minutes before the top of the hour. It's Friday, March 29th, 2019, Vietnam Veterans Day, 34 degrees outside. Jamin Dobbin on the line with me from beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, half man, half amazing, half junkyard dog, half, I don't know, whatever else he is. But and Jennifer Bordy in the house.
I do want to move on, but I want to point out one other recent example right here in Bozeman to what Pete was saying. That double or murder suicide we just had.
Right.
That's because somebody from out of state called the police with a concern about the well-being of one of those people, and so they looked a couple of different places before they found him.
Several houses.
It has nothing to do with being a family member. I'm not sure where Pete got that, but anyway.
No. Okay.
Do I not get to just let me tell you what the Supreme Court did not do in relationship to the Mueller report.
What did they not do?
The report. Well, one of the things that happened during the investigation was a subpoena that was issued on a foreign company that is operated by a foreign government, but it's a commercial company. And I never even was actually aware that that kind of thing happened. Do you think the U.S. has commercial companies elsewhere? I don't know. Weird.
I don't know.
Okay, but anyway, and so they took it to court. They wanted to fight the subpoena. They took it to court, and the lower court said, nope, you got to comply, and you have to pay $50,000 for every day you don't comply.
Wow.
Well, what the U.S. Supreme Court did, or I see it as didn't do, earlier this week, is they turned down the appeal of that foreign company, which, by the way, has not been named. It's called Company A, operated by Country A. So we don't know what company it is, but we can assume it's probably a Russian-operated company, but we don't know that. But anyway, so the U.S. Supreme Court turned down their appeal. So now the question is, Mueller has issued his report, which might be part of the reason why they turned it down, because he issued his report to the Attorney General last Saturday. Monday is when the Supreme Court turned down this appeal. But what does it really mean? His investigation's over, although he did refer certain matters to other U.S. attorneys and I think cities, too, for investigation. But
the southern state of New York is one of them, I think, that's looking at him.
So I am going to assume that at least the foreign company doesn't have to comply with the subpoena, but do they still have to pay the $50,000 a day fine? That's an interesting question. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the rest of that.
Well, let's go to the phones. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you're on the air. Hello. 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 Going once, going twice. All right.
All right. So I do want to throw this one in. It's something the Supreme Court did do. They issued a decision earlier this week, and it's just kind of a fun case to look at. It doesn't have very much universal application, and yet I think hunters worldwide, or at least countrywide, would probably be happy. This took place in Alaska, which does have some of its own unique rules regarding public lands, for example, because a vast majority of Alaska is federally owned. Yes. And because it's also in some respects impossible to get from one place to another in Alaska without flying or by boats. Some places like Juneau, their capital, there are no roads to Juneau. You have to get there by plane or by boat. But anyway, so what the U.S. Supreme Court ruled earlier this week, a man used his hovercraft over a river within a national park to hunt moose, and the National Park Service told him, you can't do that. And it's interesting to wonder how this got all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and the kind of money that would have had to be involved, and was somebody actually helping the hunter, or is he just really rich because he does have a hovercraft?
I don't know.
But anyway, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in his favor, and they said the National Park Service did not have the authority to ban use of hovercrafts on Alaska's Nation River. Now, this is not true in the lower 48. They apparently do have the authority to ban hovercrafts. I've never heard of that, but it was just an interesting one. And I have to throw out the man's name because it has its own interest. His name is John Sturgeon, a fish.
Okay.
Just a fun one for everybody to think about.
All right, we got to do the rush update. What do you got coming up next?
One more ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court earlier this week having to do with, remember in 2000, while Clinton was still president, there was a bombing of the USS Cole in Sudan, and 40 some odd U.S. Sailors
USS
were
Cole,
killed.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there was a lawsuit about that, and we'll talk about what the U.S. Supreme Court did with that.
We'll talk about that when we come back. Be right back. 4 minutes for the top of the hour. It's Friday, March 29, 2019, Vietnam Veterans Day. And Shane Matobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia, has a question for Jennifer, the law babe. What's up, Shane?
Well, just an observation first. Regrettably, the Americans lost 17 sailors on the Cole and 39 were injured. My question, I have two questions. The first question is, we've talked a lot about the ACA this weekend. Judge Reed O'Connor has now struck it down as unconstitutional. I'd like to know what Jennifer thinks about that. And on the Mullet case, I think it's important to bring up the fact we talked about this a year ago, and this same prosecutor is the one who settled over $500 million in civil cases that Chicago has had to pay out. So you wonder what's going on? Maybe this will create a national discussion why the police in Chicago don't want to do their jobs because they're afraid the prosecutor will allow someone to charge them with abusing their civil rights.
That's an interesting tie-in that I missed and didn't even think about. But you're right, because Chicago has paid out more than probably anybody else in civil lawsuits for misbehavior, misconduct, whatever you want to call it, abuse by the police officers there. So interesting comment. Thanks.
Well,
right.
I mean, there's something rotten in Chicago. I can smell it.
There always has been.
Thanks for walking on my line, okay?
Oh, sorry. You can smell it. Oh, got it.
There's something rotten in Chicago. I can smell it.
Got it.
Okay?
That's good.
You're right. I'm bad.
I worked on that all day, and she walks on my line.
Sorry.
Right.
I even told her I was going to say it before I said it.
I'm bad. Sorry.
You're horrible.
All right. So anyway, in terms of the USS Cole, a lot of families of the sailors and both the deceased sailors, and you're right, there was 17, 42 were injured, and they sued the Sudanese government. And guess what this lawsuit ultimately turned on? That they served them wrongly. They served them at their embassy in the United States, but we have a statute that says you have to serve foreign governments. Sorry, oh gosh, I gotta find it because I can't say it right otherwise. Okay, the Foreign Service Immunities Act requires the suit to be served in a mailing to the office of the foreign minister in their home country. And what happened was, as in most lawsuits that get filed in the United States against, obviously, U.S. citizens or corporations, you can serve them in person if you want. You can serve by mailing now. That's a relatively new animal. But they served the USS Cole case at the Sudan's embassy in the United States. And the U.S. Supreme Court said, sorry, and so they reversed a multi-million-dollar verdict. The $315 million actually was a default judgment when they didn't reply to that lawsuit, and they were entitled not to because they were not served properly. So the whole thing got thrown out by the United States Supreme Court.
Jennifer, thanks much. Shane, tell everybody goodbye till Monday.
Goodbye, all of us, and be happy, be safe, and have a great weekend, everyone.
All right, thanks, Shane. All right, Jennifer, law babe.
Oh, I won't be here next Friday.
Okay. Well, then we'll put you on the calendar as
I'm actually
absent
having
without leave.
a real vacation for 3 whole days.
All good for you. All right. All right, that wraps it up for us. Thanks to Jennifer being here. Thanks for Greg Gianforte being here. Thanks for the Vietnam vets being here. Thanks
for
to Shane.
Tom for being a Vietnam vet and being here.